Hi everybody, I'm Brian Seymour, Director of Instructional Technology for Pickerington Local Schools. I'd like to tell you a little story today about our journey into what we are calling Tradigital Learning, which is our version of blended learning. So a little bit about Pickerington Schools. We are located in the southeast corner of central Ohio. We have about 10,300 students, and we are the 15th largest school district in the state of Ohio. We have 665 teachers and 65 administrators. So where did this all happen at? Well, in 2015-16, we decided that we really needed to examine how we were utilizing technology. We had decided that we were going to get rid of textbooks, that we were going to go more of a digital route to help support our teachers in teaching and learning. So we developed 7 different stakeholder groups, and our goal for this was really to create a master plan for everything that technology touched in the deal of teaching and learning. So we really truly focused in on an idea of, blended, or idea of pedagogy first and not the technology first. So we realized along with this that we had to make a change in pedagogy. So we decided that we wanted to go more of a blended learning approach. And we also, in this plan, wanted a roadmap for devices. So we wanted to, and we ended up with the idea of going one-to-one. And then along with that, we also wanted some kind of evaluation metrics to decide, is this truly working? Is it not working? And what can we do to help improve it? So the picture that you see there is actually the front cover of our technology plan. It ended up being 122 pages long, and it really goes over everything about how technology touches teaching and learning and how we can utilize it. It gives different things like look-fors, things for principals to do when they're walking around for walkthroughs of buildings, and really a lot of interaction between the technology department and the curriculum or our teaching and learning department. So a couple things that we ran across, a lot of research that we looked up as we were going through this idea of building this technology plan. Really the biggest thing that we saw was technology by itself really truly makes no instructional difference. And we also found that the addition of technology with no change in pedagogy actually has a negative effect on student learning. So we really realized that as we did this, the idea of changing pedagogy was more important than actually getting in and looking at how this Chromebook works or how this app works. It's really about the pedagogy and not about the technology. So as our buildings have gone one-to-one, we've really done the majority of our professional development, which is mostly job-embedded professional development, is on changing pedagogy, looking at station rotation models, looking at how to differentiate different groups, and how to use the technology to do those things. So our idea of blended learning is what we have termed Tradigital Learning. And Tradigital Learning is blending the best teaching practices from a traditional classroom to that of a digital classroom. All right, so we really wanted to honor the good work that our teachers have done throughout their career and not just, throw the baby out with the bathwater, but really look at those good teaching practices that we've done a lot over the course of the numerous years that people have been in our district. So really to identify a lot of those best teaching practices, we used a lot of John Hattie's work. Visible learning and the different barometers and looking at what the effect size was on some of those different best teaching practices that we identified. So we actually worked with a company called Mind Research, and you can see there at the bottom of the screen a link to a research study that we did. Mind Research is a company that we use to help or to supply us with ST Math. And they did a 2-year research study on our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade kids and really looked at our change and how we changed into this tradigital learning and how it really made a dramatic effect in showing math scores and how the curriculum actually changed. So it's a really good research study if you're interested in looking at what the effects truly were on our tradigital learning path. The other piece, along with the change in pedagogy, our principals and our teachers and staff members really wanted a device roadmap. Really wanted to know, hey, when are my computers going to get redone? When am I getting new iPads? When are the computer labs getting refreshed? So on and so forth. So this is our first 2 years of our roadmap, and we've got 10 years of this, which obviously they're going to have to change as new technology comes out, but it kind of gives us a good idea of where we're going and what we've got down. So this year in 16-17, we redid 2 elementary schools. We completely wiped them clean, and this first part of the elementary schools, we actually went completely with iPads. We're going to change that a little bit next year, and we're going to actually take 3rd and 4th grade, and they're going to get Chromebooks, and younger grade levels will get iPads. Along with that, our 5th and 6th graders, which encompass our middle school, they actually got Chromebooks, take-home models, so they're taking them home every night with them. They're charging them at home. We don't allow chargers in school, just because our buildings just don't have a lot of outlets, and we don't want cords running all over the place. Next school year, as you can see, we're going to do 3 more elementary schools, iPads and Chromebooks. And then grades 5 through 10 will all have Chromebooks. And then the other thing is we also get devices for our staff members. So our staff members have a MacBook Air, and then they also have whatever device they're doing one-to-one. So if they're in the middle school, junior high, or the high school, they get a Chromebook. If they're at the elementary, they either get an iPad or a Chromebook, depending on what level it is that they're at. So our staff members have really good technology to be able to use that as well. So along with that, the idea of changing in pedagogy, we had to look for a blended learning model that was easy to get started with. So really what we're looking at is we're looking at the station rotation model, which a lot of elementary schools already do this. But we really wanted to take it a step further, make sure that there's a technology piece to it, and then really over the course of those 3 years that we're rolling this out, we really want to be able to personalize, differentiate for all of our students in each one of the classrooms. And our eventual goal is that every classroom has 4 stations in it. There's a teacher-led station, a technology-enhanced station or a digital station, an independent practice station, and then the station we're calling the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. Eventually, we would like to see all of these groups. In year 1, it's kind of just put them in groups and we'll go with it. Year 2 of the program, we're actually looking for 3 separate groups based on pre-assessment scores. So every time you change standards or every time you change to a different level of teaching, we want 3 different stations, a high and a middle, a low, based on however it is that they did their pre-assessment data. And then year 3 is actually going to be where we're differentiating by each individual kid. Now, we know we've got some teachers right now. I've got some teachers that are in year 2, but really they're just year 1 folks. But they've got it so far that they're actually differentiating by 3 different groups. So some teachers are going to take a little bit longer. Some teachers we're going to have to just kind of get out of their way and let them do their thing. So it's really encouraging after the course of just a year here now how far we are into the idea of using station rotation. We've actually even got high school teachers that are using this in Algebra 1 courses to work with some of their kids. So it's really encouraging to see the station rotation model happening. So how did we really get started with this? Well, the idea started with we needed to train our teachers. So this is actually from a professional development day, our innovation conference that we have every January. And the teachers that signed up for this session, they actually became students. And there was 1 teacher in this group, and you can see there's probably about 55, 60 teachers in here. But there's 1 main teacher that's actually leading it. But you've got a museum walk, you've got small groups, you've got over there in the corner right there, you've got the teacher leading a small group, more museum walk type things. So it was really nice to have the teachers be a part of being students first. And then they could see how they were actually rotating. Once again, here's the teacher-led group, the small group station as we went through. So one of the other things that we needed to talk about was, well, we stopped buying textbooks. So what curriculum or what supports do we have for our teachers as we go through some things? So we really needed to look at different apps and different software. And we've adopted quite a few new pieces of software over the course of the last couple years. And our must-haves that we have is they must be aligned to the standards. Obviously, that's what we're teaching. We're teaching the standards. They must supply usable, actionable data, and they must be easy to use and they have to be engaging for the students. It could be a wonderful program, but if the kids don't want to use it, it's not going to give us what we need. So along with that, here's some of the programs that we've used. Some of these are things that our teachers have found on their own. Some of them are things that we've purchased for the school district. And one of my biggest things is I want to monitor what we're using, because if we're not going to use it, I'm not going to pay for it. There's so many good things out there that if we're not utilizing it in the classroom for one reason or another, I need to know about it, and I can't just guess. I have to have actually data that actually shows, yes, we're using this, no, we're not using this. So from each one of these, I can actually drill down and actually see how much time is being spent by our kids. So here's two of our main ones, ST Math and Google Classroom, which is our LMS that we use. And one of the questions that I get a lot is, well, how do you support all of these different types of software? So we actually put them in 3 different tiers. The first tier is our district-wide software. So this one we give full support from my department. And we're really looking at, like Google, Read and Write for Google, Infinite Campus, Renaissance Learning, Imagine Learning, Illuminate. Those are all things that are used across the board. Okay, so we'll give full support to those. Tier 2 are things that have been approved by our Teaching and Learning Department, which is our curriculum office. These may not be used across the district, but they may be used in certain grade levels. So once again, we'll give full support to those. Tier 3 is really the teacher-adopted ones. Those random apps that teachers have found that they like. Maybe they're free, or maybe they can get a free trial on it. We'll support these as we're available. We have a fairly small staff right now. We're growing next school year, which I'm very thankful for. But right now we have a fairly small staff, and we just cannot get out to help every single person every single day. So we really focus on Tier 1 and Tier 2 first. If we have the time available, we'll get down and help out with Tier 3. So the other thing that we had to have a conversation about when we went to Tradigital Learning was looking at classroom management, how our classrooms needed to change and how we as adults needed to make those different implementations to actually change the way that we structure our classroom. So as you can see here, this is what we came up with, and we really focused in on, we wanted the idea of the entire building and really the entire district saying the same thing. All right. So we didn't want one teacher saying one thing and one teacher saying, and kids would get really confused with that. So really what we came up with is we came up with kind of like a stoplight type of an idea. A red task, a yellow task, and a green task. So if it's a red task, it's a Chromebook free. We want the Chromebooks put away. You can't use them. We really did not want to get to the point of Chromebooks 24/7. That's not what Tradigital Learning is all about. Tradigital Learning is about using technology sometimes. All right. If we went to full integrated technology every single minute, the kids would get burnt out by that and they'd be wanting to go back. We still want them to do some stuff on paper. We still want them to build things. We still want them to do science activities with their hands. But the Chromebook or the iPad is just there as another tool for the teacher to be able to use. So red task, can't use it. Yellow task, Chromebook activity, but it's limited to a few specific websites that you can use. And then a green task, which is obviously a lot of our time is spent in green task, is here's your assignment. You can use whatever you want to be able to show me your learning or to solve the problem. And then the same thing kind of there. This is something we stole from Hilliard City Schools, their idea of using their classroom management strategy for using iPads. One of the other things that Tradigital Learning we really wanted to focus on is technology beyond the device. A lot of times schools just end technology integration. We have Chromebooks, we have iPads, we're done, we're good, we don't need anything else. So the question is really how can other types of software or accessories really help in the idea of teaching and learning? And we made our major investment this year in 2 different areas. One was in virtual reality, as you can see from the young lady there at one of our elementary schools with the ViewMaster virtual reality goggles. And computer science. We're starting up a computer science pathway K through 12. So we started a little bit this year buying some computer science toys. One of the things that we've done with VR is we've actually purchased enough VR tools to actually create 4 of these classroom kits. So teachers can check these out from the technology office, and then basically they get them for a week or 2 weeks or however long they need them for. And there's 26 or 28 virtual reality goggles in there. There's iPod Touches in there, and the teachers can take kids to wherever it is they need to go. So you can see at the bottom of the screen, we actually wrote an article with ISTE talking about how virtual reality really worked to close the achievement gap. And we're still working on it and trying to figure out exactly how this all works. But we believe that part of the achievement gap is actually lack of experiences, and we're calling it the experience gap. So in 4th grade, our curriculum framework actually has the kids doing a 9-week unit on the oceans. One of the problems with the school that we wrote this article with, a lot of their kids had never been to the ocean. They're a lower socioeconomic school. A lot of the kids hadn't been to the ocean, so their writing samples just weren't very good. So we walk in with the virtual reality kits, took about a half an hour per classroom, and actually took them, put them in a shark cage, put them snorkeling and scuba diving. And now they actually get that full 3D immersive piece, and they were videos that they were able to see fish swimming by and sharks and all kinds of really cool things. And the interesting thing is what happened after we left. The interaction with the curriculum became so much greater than what it had before. It was really incredible to watch. And if you've never seen kids using virtual reality, it's quite a hoot to watch them interact with the virtual reality experience. So the classroom kits are actually fairly, they're expensive, but not totally expensive. They're about $7,000 to purchase. And if you're interested, just contact me and I can help you out with getting your school set up with one of these classroom kits. So one of the other things that we talked about as well with the idea of tradigital learning is you have to create some of those groups to be able to do station rotation. So we really talked about learning spaces and what does your classroom look like? And is your classroom set up to be able to do tradigital learning? So I always ask, put this picture up. This is a 17th century tapestry of a classroom. Does your classroom still look like this? Yes, it's got the teacher up at the front of the room, the all-beer, all-knowing, intelligent one, and just listen to me and you will be smarter yourself. We know that doesn't work, but we got a little intervention session going on down here in the bottom of the screen. And if you look in the back row of the picture, you've got a kid sleeping and you got a couple kids talking in the background. So really, honestly, it's a lot like some of our traditional schools still are. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of our classrooms were like this before we really started having these conversations. So here's a couple examples of what some of our classrooms now look like. And a lot of it was just giving the teachers the quote-unquote permission to make their rooms different. So this all started really last summer with the idea that we had 3 computer labs, one at each one of our middle schools, and our middle schools were going one-to-one. So if our middle school kids all have a Chromebook, why do we need a computer lab anymore? We don't. So we're actually slowly starting to get rid of those as the schools go one-to-one. So then we decided, well, what do we want to do with this? Well, we created an innovation space. So we gutted the computer lab. We put those computers elsewhere in the district. We painted a green screen wall on the back wall so kids can use that for video editing. We put TVs on stands that are on wheels, and the kids can now connect their Chromebooks to it, and we can do small group pieces with that. But the room is flexible enough. Everything's super lightweight. Everything's on wheels. The room can be completely moved around and changed for however it is that we need the room set up. So the next idea then was the media centers. The media centers should be the hub of learning in our schools. So that needs to change too, because a lot of our media centers, still had the mentality of, hey, come in, find a book, sit down, be quiet, read your book. Well, we need to change that idea around a little bit so it's more of a collaborative spaces. And this was one of our media centers that we redid to add some couches and things like that are more comfortable for the kids. And once again, everything's movable. Everything can change as we need it to. And then over on the side are 2 examples of classrooms that we're actually looking at. So as easy as, hey, we don't have a lot of money to redo all the furniture, so let's take the legs off the desks and put the desks on the floor. Kids are sitting on the floor now. Or let's take the legs and move them all the way up. So now we've got kids sitting on stools. Teachers begged, borrowed, and asked the janitors, what kind of furniture do you have? Or what's in storage? Or what's out there? This one of the teachers found a really good sale on beach chairs, so she decided she wanted to buy a whole bunch of beach chairs for her classroom. The kids love them. Now, one of the cool things is that kids don't have assigned seats in these classrooms. The kids can choose different seats throughout the course of the week, wherever it is they want to go and whatever it is they need that day. So this has really shown a lot less discipline in our classrooms now because kids are kind of what they need to. If they need to fidget and they need to be on a ball, then by all means, go for a ball. If you want to sit on the floor, go for it. It's one of those things where it's about the teaching and learning and not about where the kid sits. So if the kid needs this seat to learn, then by all means, let's provide it in the best way that we can. So the last thing I want to talk about is professional development. So we know that we're changing the classroom, and we know that we're asking the teachers to personalize and differentiate their classroom. We need to do that exact same thing in professional development. We learned really quick in about a month that whole group professional development does not move the needle. It wasn't making any changes. It was probably confusing people more than anything. Some people were more experienced than what we were doing, so they were bored. Some people, it was way over their head, so they were bored or frustrated. So we'd really decided that we really wanted to get into the idea of job-embedded professional development. And that's what our coordinators get out to do, and they get out and actually work with the teachers hand in hand during the school day to help solve some of those problems or learn how to use technology in more powerful ways. The other piece that we've done a really good job with is using social media. I would say we have about 55 to 60% of our teachers actually using social media on a daily or weekly basis, and they've created those personal learning networks. And one of the things that I'm proud of is that during our innovation conference, which we have every January, this past January, we actually had 1.55 million Twitter impressions from our teachers that were tweeting. We were number 2 all day to the inauguration. So if we didn't have a presidential inauguration that day, we would have been number 1. But we've really got this really nice investment now of all this curated material from all these different conference sessions that teachers can go back and look. Plus, it also gives us information to share with the community and with our stakeholders of saying, this is the good stuff that we're doing during professional development days. These are why we need these professional development days. So really, in closing, this is our kind of our learning, our Tradigital Learning roadmap of really showing how our teaching roles change and use of technology and what year 1 through year 3 looks like and so on. I could spend a really lengthy session just on this, and I'm going to do that. It'll probably be my next podcast. We'll be dealing with this roadmap. But once again, it just kind of gives you a snapshot, a one picture type idea of where we're moving towards and what we're hoping over the course of these 4 years. So in closing, here's just a link to the presentation if you want to see it, link to those 2 articles that I shared during the session, and then my contact information as well. So if you'd like to, please feel free to reach out to me. We do tours of our buildings all the time. We're actually having a big Google event where Google's actually going to come out. Jamie Cassup, the Google evangelist, is actually going to come out and do a session with us. And so we're inviting schools from all over the country to come out and visit us and see what it is that we're doing. We're going to do classroom visits that day. It's going to be sometime November 2017. So if you're interested in that, please contact me and I'll make sure you get on the mailing list. But once again, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed our story on Tradigital Learning. We're still in the process of writing it, so check back and we'll give updates as we go through. So thank you very much.